Some riding associations in Saskatchewan want their party to abolish it as well, as does Saskatchewan Premier Brad Wall. Has the fact that two of the senators at the center of this whole story are from Saskatchewan, Senator David Tkachuk and Senator Pamela Wallin, has that fueled renewed interest in ending the Senate? Let's find out. Joining me now is the Premier of Saskatchewan, Brad Wall. Good morning, Premier, and welcome to the House.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Your party's official policy supports maintaining the Senate and reforming it through elections. But in the past week, 3 Saskatchewan Party constituency associations have come forward to say they want the party to change its policy and get behind abolition. You've been on this program saying personally you would like to abolish the Senate. Would you still?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. We had a debate at our most recent policy convention, and the resolution to move to an abolished Senate as part of Sask Party policy was defeated. And, I think those who want reform, by the way, want more than just the elected part. They want one of the other E's, maybe all three of them, but certainly they want the equal part. And that's just never going to happen. I can't imagine a premier of a more populous province agreeing to that sort of a thing. And, of course, that's pretty fundamental to any formula, any chance to amend the Constitution or to have Senate reform that's lasting. So I think the only option then that we're left with is to abolish the Senate. We can move to an elected Senate, I guess, with some provinces electing senators and some not. But, it's not just the initial election that would be helpful in terms of Senate reform. Re-election is pretty key in this. That's what keeps politicians accountable. It's the prospect of having to stand before constituents in re-election. You kind of need Thanksgiving Day to get the attention of the turkeys, and so that's another problem with just the one E, the elected once, and then you're senator till 75.
But if you think it's easier to abolish than reform, abolishing is no easy feat. You need amendments to the Constitution. The provinces all have to get on board. Already, Quebec has asked the Quebec Court of Appeal to look into the constitutionality of Harper's Senate reform proposal. How the heck do you get all the provinces on board?
Agreed. It's also, it's not an easy proposition, and I don't think anybody that's in favor of abolishing the Senate as I am believes it's easy. However, I do believe there's a path towards abolition that is less rocky than reform, because than the meaningful reform, or you could have an equal Senate, because again, a populous province is not going to be supportive of that equal E, whereas they may be supportive, given all of this recent development and just sort of the long-standing concerns Canadians have with the Senate. They may be more amenable to abolishing the Senate than reforming it.
Your province is in a sense at the center of this scandal that you're kind of mentioning. Senator David Tkachuk, the head of the Board of Internal Economy, he's from your province. So is Senator Pamela Wallin. Do you think that this controversy around expenses gives impetus to an abolition movement?
I think it would, regardless of who was involved and whose expenses were being audited and who was doing the audit. It's just the latest in a line, I think, of maybe not scandals to the extent that this one is, but just concerns people have with the Senate.
Senator Pam Wallin, who's kicked out of caucus, or as she says, recused herself, while the firm Deloitte audits her travel expenses. This must be a topic of conversation in your province. What are you hearing from people in your province about this in Saskatchewan?
People, I think, are waiting to see what those who are following it closely are waiting to see what the audit reports and what it shows. I think there's just a general concern with the whole scandal, the whole issue. There's Saskatchewan people involved, so that perhaps brings it home a little bit more than other places where there isn't Saskatchewan parties to the situation, to the issue. But just in general, Evan, it isn't focusing on individual senators as much as it is, I think, on the overall scandal and the standing of the Senate in the minds of the people of this province and right across the country.
In the midst of this investigation into senators, there's a $90,000 gift from a chief of staff. I'm interested in your view from your position. How plausible is that? I mean, is that the way it works? Your chief of staff keeps stuff like that from you?
Well, I'm sure every premier's office, every first minister's office operates in a different way. I'll just say this. I've known the prime minister now for some time, and I've known him to be a man of his word. And he has stated that he was unaware of it, and I'll take him at his word.
Were you surprised at this, or did you take your chief of staff in and say, What are you doing that I don't know about?
No, there's a bit of a bit of moments of glib humor probably in the wake of it. As he was reporting to me how many people were asking him for money. Of course, it never happened, but it was in the wake of this particular issue, and those things haven't. I don't know how that I don't know how that sort of a transaction happens. It's hard for even to imagine the genesis of it or the origin, or in how this could be thought to be a good idea to pursue. It's very difficult to contemplate because it's so far away from, just generally speaking, how operations in the offices in Regina, for example.
Premier, it's always good to have you on the House. I got to leave it there this morning, but enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks.
Thanks for your time.
That's Brad Wall, the Premier of Saskatchewan.